Installation Part 2, Upgrades and Migration. In this nugget, we'll be addressing installation. This is Part 2, where we'll talk about upgrades and migration. Here we'll start off by talking about upgrading to Windows 7. This has only got a single upgrade path, really, from Windows Vista to Windows 7, although technically it can also upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 7. I'll explain that as we get there. You can also migrate from Windows XP. Notice that you cannot upgrade from Windows XP. We'll talk about that as well. But in order to do something like this, you would have to transfer your settings over from XP to Windows 7, which is your new installation. You can do that using the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, and that's useful for a single case basis, or you can use the more corporate level User State Migration Tool, or the USMT. Have you ever purchased something and then found out that just a few months later something better comes out than what you bought? That happens in the computer world, of course, all the time. There's a better processor or something faster. It also happens in the camera world. For example, I have a couple of really nice D300 cameras, which have served me very, very well. I shoot for CBS Sports, a division of CBS Sports. I also shoot a lot of landscapes and nature. But when I bought my D300s, this camera had not yet come out. Now, when I look at this camera, I think, wow, I should get this camera instead. It's a D3S. I like it quite a lot. Of course, it's a bargain basement price of only $5,200. But this is just one of those cases where as soon as you buy something, something else, bigger and better comes out. And by the way, I only show you this because, well, Christmas is coming up soon, as well as my birthday, and so it's just not too early to start planning. Just think about it. That's all I ask. Also, when it comes to upgrading our operating systems, we have to do that from time to time as well. Not just to keep up with whatever's the latest thing, so to speak, but also because a lot of applications, as time goes by, will perform better or work better with better features on a more upgraded operating system. For example, if you're stuck with NT4, which is ancient in computing terms, well, chances are you're not going to be able to use many, if any, of the newer applications that have come out in the past several years there. On the other hand, perhaps you have to stay with NT4 because you have an old application that never gets updated, and you have to have an NT4 computer because that application won't run on any more current operating system. In fact, that happened to me just a little while ago. I was getting my eyes examined in the eye doctor's office. They had software that would only run on an NT4 computer. They calculated the results of, eye measurements or something like this. But otherwise, most of the time we're going to be upgrading. And so here, let's go ahead and take a look at how you can upgrade from various operating systems. Really, we're going to start only with Vista because that's the only operating system that you can upgrade to Windows 7. And when you perform an upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7, you need to upgrade to an equivalent or better edition of Windows. Also, you need to maintain your architecture. So if you've got Windows Vista, the 32-bit edition, which is what we mean when we have an x86 there, then I would have to upgrade to an x86 edition of Windows 7 as well. If I had a 64-bit processor, though, and I said, hey, I've got the old 32-bit version of Vista, but I really want a 64-bit edition of Windows 7 because my processor will support it, then you would have to use other methods, such as a migration, the same way that you would migrate from Windows XP, which we'll talk about here in a little while. Also, equivalently, if I would have Windows Vista in the 64-bit edition, I'd have to upgrade directly to an x64-bit edition of Windows 7 as well. When we talk about equivalent or better editions, though, and as an example, here if I was working with Windows Vista Business Edition, well, the nearest equivalent to that in Windows 7 would be Windows 7 Professional. So I could make that upgrade. But it has to be at least the equivalent edition. I can also upgrade to something better. So I could upgrade from Windows Vista Business to Windows 7 Enterprise or Windows 7 Ultimate, and both of those would also work as an upgrade path. But I could not, for example, upgrade from Windows Vista Business to Windows 7 Home Edition. And before I continue the discussion of upgrading from Windows Vista to Windows 7, let me just point out real quickly here as well. You can upgrade Windows 7 operating systems to Windows 7. For example, maybe this was Windows 7 Home Edition, but I realized, boy, that's missing a lot of features that I really like to have. Maybe I'd rather have Windows 7 Ultimate Edition. Well, you can do that. You can make that upgrade either using the retail DVD, if you bought that, or you could use Windows Anytime what we call an anytime upgrade. Let me just show you that real quick here. Let me get to an interface here. So for example here, what am I running? Let me right click on the computer in Windows 7, and you'll see here that I'm running the Professional Edition. Well, I could click here where it says Get More Features with a new edition of Windows 7, and you could go online to choose the edition of Windows 7 that's best for you. And then what that would do is it will allow me to make a purchase, and then it will upgrade Windows 7 automatically for me. Most of the bits for Windows 7 Ultimate, for example, are already actually here because the install.wim file is mostly the same across all editions of Windows. It just kind of unlocks certain features. Or if I had already purchased Windows Anytime Upgrade key through other means, I could just enter the key in there and then it would allow me to do so. But otherwise, you just click that first option, and you can see here that it would then take you to an opportunity to upgrade to, in this case, Professional. Okay, so I could perform that upgrade. And that would be less expensive than buying a full retail boxed copy of Ultimate without buying it as an upgrade price. So that would hopefully save us a little bit of money there. Also, when you do perform an upgrade, and I'm again getting back to Vista here, when you do perform an upgrade, it's best if you use the Upgrade Advisor. This is something that you can download from Microsoft, and if we take a look at this, let me get past my my camera here. Subliminal advertising there. I keep putting that in front of you for who knows what reason. Think about it. Here what I can do is find out if my PC can run Windows 7. And you can see that there's a URL here for the Upgrade Advisor. That's the whole URL that you can see up there. And you can make note of that, or it's easier probably just to search for it than it is to write that down. But once you get to this page, you can download the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. Then you simply download it, and it will identify for you any potential problems that you would have with an upgrade from Vista to 7. Maybe there's applications that are not compatible, or there's hardware that does not have Windows 7 drivers, or there's something that has a known conflict, something like that. And if it's something that's a concern that you should be aware of, but not necessarily a showstopper, it'll give you an exclamation point. If it's a showstopper, meaning that it's just not at all compatible, for example, then it will give you a red X. By way of example here, you can tell that I've gone to a desktop here where someone has made some customization changes here. They've got their own wallpaper. This is actually a photograph that I took in Glacier National Park. So we have some wallpaper that we like. We might have some files that we like and so forth, but maybe I don't know if my applications and hardware are compatible. So on this Windows Vista machine, which you can see right here, if I right-click on the computer and choose Properties, we can identify that I'm currently running, if it ever shows up here, Windows Vista Business Edition. So what I might want to do is to go ahead and run this utility to see if I've got any compatibility problems. I'm going to go ahead and get this launched, and we'll see how it looks. Then here's the interface for the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. All you have to do is to launch it, which I've done here now, after I've installed it, and then just click Start Check. That's pretty much it. Now it'll just run through everything and let me know if there's any problems. Now then here it's already run through its paces to find out all the problems that I might have with this. Here it found a single problem with the VMware AMD PCNet adapter. That's the network card adapter. It's not compatible with Windows 7. Now this is something that it says that would cause a problem with the installation. This is actually going to be okay because all I have to do is to install VMware Tools, which is a product that comes with VMware that allows you to do a number of different integrated functions within your operating system, your virtual machine, and it works. Okay, so I know that there's a fix for that, so I'm not too concerned. Well, actually, there's two issues, isn't there? I think the other one has to do with .NET something or another. Yeah, .NET Framework 1.1. That doesn't work on Windows 7, so I should uninstall that before I use Windows 7 here. The other option there would be, I also happen to know, that I could still perform the installation of Windows 7 and then just download a later version of the .NET Framework, and that should still work fine as well. You can also save the report and also print that out if you need to as well. Now, Windows Vista and Windows 7 have pretty much the same hardware requirements. So you don't really have to have too much concern about that. If you've already got Windows Vista, then you pretty much know that you have the hardware requirements for Windows 7. The only exception there is you need at least 10 gigabytes of free space. I'll put free out here. 10 gigabytes of free space in order to copy and expand the files from the Windows 7 installation. Otherwise, it's not that big a deal. You do also have to require on your Windows Vista installation that you have Service Pack 1 or greater. There's actually Service Pack 2 out right now for Windows Vista at the time of this recording. So either one of those would work. If you don't have Service Pack 1 or 2, then the upgrade will not take place. Also, we have a rollback that is possible. So if you're in the midst of installing and it's copying files and the hard drive light is on and all kinds of things are going on, and then you realize, oops, I forgot to check for this application to see if it was compatible, or who knows whatever else reason you might have, well, you can cancel that at any time prior to the first logon. After you've logged on for the first time, there's no more rollback capability for the upgrade. And then actually performing the upgrade is pretty simple. Once you put in the DVD and let autoplay bring this up, or if you double click on setup, then you choose install now. You can also check compatibility online, which really takes you to the same website I showed you earlier to get the compatibility checker tool. But what this will do is it'll start to copy some files, and then it'll also offer to go online if you have an internet connection and download certain update files, which might add certain capabilities to the Windows 7 DVD that were not there at the time that DVD was burned, such as more updated drivers or other certain kinds of bug fixes that might help in the installation process. It doesn't get all updates for you. That's the screen I was talking about right there. It doesn't get all updates for you, because it only really gets you things that relate to the installation. After you've performed the installation, then you can just use Windows Update to get anything else you want. But you could click Go Online. In this case, let's go ahead and select that option. And then after accepting a license agreement, you come to the type of installation you want. Obviously, you can choose Upgrade, which is the top choice, and which is only a viable option if you have booted from a Windows Vista computer that you want to upgrade to Windows 7, or a Windows 7 computer that you want to upgrade to a different edition of Windows 7. You cannot perform an upgrade if you boot directly from the DVD. And then everything after this is pretty much the same as the installation we'd seen before. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this for the time being. And you can see that again, once that has been done, you can then go back to, roll back to this state. Now, if you want to upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7, you can't. There is no upgrade. So you have to migrate from XP to Windows 7 because there is no direct upgrade path. The closest you could come is if you had a computer with XP on it, you could upgrade that to Windows Vista because there is an upgrade path to that. Then you could upgrade from Vista to Windows 7. Okay, so you kind of have to leapfrog that upgrade. There is no direct path, however, to upgrade from Windows XP directly to Windows 7. That's not possible. So your only other option there would be to perform a migration. Now, to understand the benefits of a migration, let's also understand why you would want to do an upgrade in the first place. And you're probably already aware of this, but an upgrade will retain the user's application preferences and their applications. They don't usually have to reinstall any of their apps. It keeps their desktop preferences and their profile, and all of the data files that they've created on that hard drive remain intact. So it's the most graceful, least disruptive way to go from one operating system to the next, is to perform an upgrade. But since there's no upgrade from XP to Windows 7, now what are we going to do? Well, we have to use a migration. What this does is it picks up all the settings on our Windows XP computer, and it allows us to save them somewhere and then transfer them to a Windows 7 computer in a clean installation. So it'll keep your profile settings and your data. Notice that I did not include applications in that. You do not migrate applications, just the profile settings and the data. And with some applications, it will also retain any preferences that you have for that application. Again, perhaps like Microsoft Office. It might keep certain preferences that I have configured there. However, it does not install Office for me on the Windows 7 computer. All right. Now let's take a look at what the profile actually involves. Here on my Windows Vista computer, for example, and this would be true of XP, Vista, NT4, and true of all Windows editions and versions. Well, the profile is anything that I've chosen to create as a preference for myself. So I chose this wallpaper. That's part of my profile. If I decided to change my mouse pointer here from white to black and make it really large, that would be a profile setting. If I decided to rearrange the start menu or make it the classic start menu, that's a profile setting for my own preferences. So that's some of the things that are involved that I might want to migrate over from a Windows XP computer to a Windows 7 computer. Then a migration will also keep not only the profile stuff that I just talked about, but also your data, any data files that I've created, any Word documents, music files, whatever else I might have there. When you do a migration, you have two methods of going about this. You can do what we call a side-by-side migration. This might be where on PC 1 I have XP installed, and then on PC 2 I do a clean installation of Windows 7. Then what I will do is I'll use certain utilities to copy all of these profile and data settings from XP over here to Windows 7. So my profile and my data get copied over here to this new computer. All right. So those are two separate computers. PC1 is one computer. PC2 is a separate computer. Both of these can actually be running at the same time and turned on. In fact, that's one of the ways you can do that using the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, which I'll talk about later. There's also the wipe and a load. With this one, what I have is, maybe again, I've got Windows XP on PC1, but on PC1, I want to go to Windows 7. So how am I going to do that? Since I can't upgrade the XP computer to Windows 7, now what do? Well, what I do is I use certain utilities, again, like the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, or you could use another tool called the User State Migration Tool. I'll talk about those in more detail later. But what I would do is I would save my settings out, normally to something like a network drive or an external drive, thumb drive, something like that. It'll include the profile and data settings. Then I'll do my clean install of Windows 7 here, okay, and then I'll have my profile and data settings here, copied from XP onto like an external drive or something. Then I will copy those back to the same physical hardware with a new operating system of Windows 7, and I've kind of injected my user profile and data. Another thing to keep in mind with this migration is you don't only migrate from Windows XP. There are certain instances in which I might want to migrate from a Windows Vista machine to a Windows 7 installation. Now you might say, James, that doesn't make sense. You already told me I could upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7, so why would I migrate? Well, that might be the case if, in addition to getting a new operating system, I also was going to get new hardware. Maybe we're upgrading all of our computers in the apartment. So let me erase XP there. You know, this instead of XP, this could be a Windows Vista machine, and I want to do a wipe and load or a side-by-side. So I'm going to discard my PC1 or donate it to charity or something like that, but I got to keep all the settings. So I'll have to do a migration to my new hardware, Windows 7. Same I could do with a wipe and load. Maybe we just didn't like much about Windows Vista that we had, and again, this might be Windows Vista down here. Well, in a wipe and load, I've got Vista here, then I format the drive on one computer and I install Windows 7 there. Now I could do that as well. So I can go from Vista to 7 in this method as well. I can also go from 7 to 7, like I told you earlier. I might go from Home Edition, for example, to the Ultimate Edition. And the tools that I'm about to show you can migrate from any of the operating systems I've discussed to Windows 7. Wow, I don't know why I chose the colors I did there, by the way. The mint green and brown makes me think of, I don't know, Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies or something. Anyway, how are we going to migrate all this stuff, though? What tools do we use to make this happen? Well, we can use something called the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard. Wow, that's a lot of pink, isn't it? What can I say, folks? I was feeling sassy today, so I decided to use hot pink. Anyway, what we do here is we can migrate using a side-by-side or the wipe and load with the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard. Well, I kind of find it funny that the acronym there is WET, but anyway, that's what it's called. This is a utility that appears on the DVD, and it's very easy to use. It's about as easy as falling down. I mean, it's that simple. What you'll do with this is you'll take the Windows 7 DVD and pop it in the DVD drive on XP, Windows Vista, or Windows 7, whichever computer it is that you want to migrate from. In other words, your old computer that has your existing profile and data. What you can do is to migrate, as I mentioned earlier, the user profile. Okay, that's your own user profile if you're not an administrator. An administrator account can migrate all user accounts, or they can pick and choose by checkboxes which user profiles they want to migrate and which ones they do not. Then it will also migrate all of the data that's associated with any of these profiles, as well as application settings. Now, the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard is really best for a single installation, like a home user that wants to transfer everything to their new computer that they just bought from the electronics store. That would be an example of how we might want to do this. Or in small offices where we have only a few migrations that we have to perform. The reason for that is because it's a manual next finish process that was not practical at all on hundreds or thousands of computers. So you really cannot do it in a large scale. The way this works is you want to transfer the settings using one of a few different methods. You can use a Windows Easy Transfer cable. This is actually just a USB cable, but there's a couple of wires that are crossed over from their normal wiring configuration in the USB cable. And by doing so, they can charge you $40 for this cable when it's probably could normally be bought off the shelf for about $3. So that simple wiring change makes it extra special. So they can transfer all of your settings for $40 for this one time. And then, probably a couple of years later, maybe you'll use it again for the next version of Windows. I don't know. Anyway, you can use that Windows Easy Transfer cable, or you can do it over the network as well. If you have both computers currently running, and that would be the case if you're using the cable or the network, then it will just transfer the settings over whichever one of those methods that you have chosen. You can also use external storage. This is very often what I'll do because I like to save the settings to external storage so that if something goes wrong with the transfer or whatever, I have a hard copy, so to speak, not really a hard copy, but I have a copy of all the settings in a file that I could then duplicate the transfer with again if I want to. Or if I had more than one computer, such as a desktop computer and a laptop, I could still also take the files that have been exported through the migration and then migrate them to a new Windows 7 laptop and a new Windows 7 desktop. Also, it's not really said there, and it's not said in the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard settings, I don't think either. But if I had a network drive, I would choose the external storage option in the wizard. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this as well. Let's go ahead and take a look again at my computer that has a profile setting, and we'll take a look at some of the other things here that would get transferred over. All right, what kind of things have we got going on here that we'll want to migrate? Well, there's my selection of the wallpaper, and there's also the JPEG file that exists somewhere on the hard drive that I want to migrate. There's also documents that I might have. For example, where am I at here? Let's go to the documents. This is part of the user profile right now. And in particular, if I open up another screen here, another window, you'll see that on the C drive, under Users, that's where the user profiles are located. And then if I go down here to trainer.nuggetlab, then you can see here, this is where all of my documents are located. Okay, you see this is actually part of the profile is actually part of what contains my documents there. So there's my tribute to William Shatner. This is a critical document that I don't want to ever lose, and it's you can see that it's a very important document to me. James Tiberius Kirk, live long and prosper. Okay, so bonus points to any of you that knew that James Kirk's middle name was Tiberius. All right. So anyway, you'll get a star on your paper if you already knew that. So let's close that up. Now notice that it's also green in color. Wait a minute. Why is it green? Well, that's because I've encrypted it too. If I go to the properties of this in advanced, you can see that I have encrypted this document. Now, why would I do that? This is something that would prevent anybody else who logs onto this computer from being able to double-click and open that file. It's thoroughly encrypted, and nobody else can read it. And that might be the case if I didn't want people to see how much of a crush I had on William Shatner, okay? Also, when I do that, it uses a certificate to create this encrypted file. By the way, this is called Encrypting File System, or EFS. The certificate that's involved is necessary for me to be able to decrypt this file. And it's pretty transparent, so that when I double-click on it, it immediately opens it up. All right. Without the certificate, I could never open this file again. It would be permanently locked away. It'd be a pretty bad day if that happened. So when I migrate to Windows 7, I've got to take along with me the certificates that were involved as well. And you can see here what I've done is I've just gone to the start and then the run line here, or in this case, actually the search, and I just ran CMD for command prompt, or I could click right there, just open command prompt and type MMC. When I type MMC, you can then go to File and add Remove Snap-in, and I've added in the certificates snap-in for my current user. There's the certificate that was used to encrypt that file. You can see that it's used for encryption here. If we take a look at the details here, it'll also identify that it has a unique thumbprint here as well. Okay, so there should be no two certificates in the world that have the exact same thumbprint, and there's also a serial number here, which should also be unique. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look here then. When I close this up, those are the things that I want to migrate over to my new Windows 7 installation. Seems like there was something. Oh, I know what else there was. There's pictures. So maybe I've got pictures that I really like as well. There's my wallpaper picture, for example. And then here's just another picture that I took when I went to Montana to Glacier National Park and photographed these mountain goats. Okay, so it's kind of funny. When I first got there, I was so excited to see mountain goats. I'd never seen any before. So I took, like, I don't know, it had to have been hundreds of pictures of a few mountain goats that I saw around. And then for the rest of the week, I must have seen 1,000 of these things. I thought they were really rare for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, so I got all these pictures, and this is valuable to me. I don't want to lose any of this stuff. So how am I going to make sure that I can keep it in Windows 7? Oh, and I almost forgot, it also takes your email settings. So if I've got email here, then I can go ahead and save that as well. And that's very critical for a lot of users as well. Don't want to lose their email. For example, here, I've got a message from myself to my trainer account that I'm going to go backpacking in the high peaks of Colorado this summer. Won't that be a lot of fun? Okay. Also, the Suns are in the playoffs. Okay. So anyway, there we go. So I don't want to lose any of my email settings either. Now, the way to retain all of the stuff that I've just shown you is to go to the DVD under the Support MyGWiz directory, double-click on MyGWiz, and choose Allow. Then you can see here that it will indeed transfer all of these things that you can identify there. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on Next, and then we choose how we want to transfer it. Using our $40 easy transfer cable. You can probably find them for less. I'm just throwing $40 out there. A network. So if I have an IP address on both computers, both on this Vista computer or on this XP computer, if that's what it was, and on my running Windows 7 computer, I could use that. Either one of those. Or I could choose an external hard disk or USB flash drive. Or if I have a network drive, I would also choose this last item there. And I would say that this is my old computer. And here it would just kind of scan through and identify the various user accounts that exist on this computer. Once it's done with this, and this may take a little while, especially if there's a lot of data involved, then I can, by checkbox, select and deselect who I want to transfer the settings for. Now, in the case of that migration, let me show you what I did. I copied all the files over here to a Windows Server 2008 server. This is also my domain controller. And I had a share called Data that you can see right there. And I have the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, and all the data is now been transferred over. Okay, so all of the stuff that I have that's involved in this, my William Shatner file, my preferences for my profile, my email, all that's contained in this compressed MIG file for migration. Okay, so then what I would do is I would go over to my new computer where I wanted to retrieve all of those same settings, and I would run the same wizard, but this time I would choose to identify this as my new computer where I want to import the settings. So then here I have my new Windows 7 installation. It doesn't have any profiles on it yet, except for the one that I'm currently logged on with, which is the NetAdmin account. That's just a different account. But I want to bring over all of these settings to transfer them from my trainer account. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And then I want to use an external hard disk once again. And I'm going to say that this is my new computer. And here I would then say that the Easy Transfer has already saved my files to an external hard disk or USB flash drive, although again, a network location also works for this. So then I'll browse to my network location, which is right here, I guess, on drive Z, and then this is my Windows Easy Transfer items from the old computer. Double click on that. There's also a password you can assign with this. So I'll enter in the password that I configured. That way, it would prevent someone else from potentially being able to lift any data files out of there that might be sensitive to you. So then here's the account that it's importing for me. I'm going to go ahead and transfer that item. By the way, I kind of clicked past it, but you might have seen there was a link down here at the bottom that said Advanced. What if I only wanted to transfer my email but not any of those data files? Or only my user profile but not any of my email? You know, all those settings I can discriminately checkbox with the Advanced button that was down there at the bottom, or that advanced link that you saw there briefly. When the transfer is complete, I can then see what was transferred, and then here it'll identify my user account. Here are the details. It's that user account. Then I can also see which documents were transferred. Now, I only had really one document and 2 JPEG files, so how come it says 40 documents? Some of this is things that are in cache or something like this. You know, these are desktop.ini files. These are all things relating to my desktop settings and all. So some of those are just part of the operating system, but here you can see my tribute to William Shatner has been properly copied over. There's probably been here's my Glacier National Park, one of those pictures. Don't remember which one that is, but it might be the animals. So you can see those things came over, as well as the system settings. If I have any program problems here as well, it'll identify those for me. Here's the Windows Mail. So this identifies that it was able to potentially get that, but there's no real thing such as Windows Mail directly from Microsoft, so I'd have to get a different edition of that. And then you can see any other applications that might have come over here as well. Okay, so once we get all of that, then we can close this up. And then I'm just going to go ahead and log this one off, and when I log back on again as the trainer, we should see the same files, and I should not have lost any data, and so forth. Alright, now here you can see I've logged on to my Windows 7 computer. If I right-click on Computer and choose Properties, we can confirm that that is indeed my new Windows 7 computer. It transferred over my wallpaper. Let's double-check our documents here. We should see my William Shatner item in there. Oh, notice that it's not green anymore. This is one thing I should point out. I don't know if it's going to be on the exam particularly, but this was an encrypted document before. If it's encrypted at the time you do the transfer, it'll stop the transfer. These have to be decrypted, then transferred over, and then after they're transferred over, then you can re-encrypt them if you want to. So I'll go back to Advanced here and choose Encrypt. But during the transfer, this is true of both the User State Migration Tool and the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, you have to decrypt the documents first. But anyway, at least we have that document there, so I'm happy about that. Also, what else did we get over here? We should have my pictures as well. You know, there, sure enough, those are right there as well. So we got those going on. And it looks like everything seemed to have come over pretty well. Now also, how about the mail? Well, you don't have Windows Mail anymore with Windows 7. You have to download Windows Live. Part of that could be the mail component. You can see here that I've already downloaded and installed it here. And then there's the Windows Mail. Notice that it immediately just blended right in my previous emails here. So again, I don't have any issues with that. And it works out pretty smoothly. Finally then, let's address the User State Migration Tool, or the USMT. This is something that's not included on the Windows 7 DVD, but it is a command line utility that you can download with the Windows Automated Installation Kit tool. Now we'll talk more about the Wake later on in another nugget, especially when we talk about things such as automation and imaging and the like. But as part of that tool, it does have the User State Migration tool. What this allows us to do is the same thing that the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard does. It's just that since it's command line, you can also do things such as use it with scripts. This allows me then to maybe go through an entire department in my organization and set up a logon script of some kind, for example, that would launch the USMT for all of my users, save all of their data to a certain location, and then at another point in time, I could then migrate them over to Windows 7. But you can also use it for single installations as well. So it's good for single or multiple migrations, and again, you can do something like scripting that. There's not really a direct side-by-side kind of a migration with the USMT. So you don't use the Windows Easy Transfer cable. You can't transfer from one powered-on computer to another powered-on computer over the network. So you don't really have that kind of thing. All you really have is the ability to save all of those settings to a file. All right. What you'll do here is you'll first export your existing, I don't know, XP computer, your existing Vista computer, whatever it is. You'll export with scan state. There are two executables involved in the User State Migration tool. One is called scan state, and then you'll import on the new Windows 7 computer with something called load state. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. And then using the User State Migration tool is simply a matter of accessing the executable, which is scan state in this case. You can see that I've copied it to my local hard drive, but you can also run it from just about anywhere, a network location, a thumb drive, whatever you want. And I'm going to run scan state followed by a UNC path. Do not use drive letters, even a network drive. Got to use a UNC path here to the data directory, which is the share, and then underneath that I've created a USMT directory. Underneath that, I've created another directory called scan state. /O only means to overwrite in case there's something else already there from a previous test run of this, for example. And then /I. This actually depends upon several XML files. One of those is MigApp, which migrates to your applications. The XML file identifies what kinds of settings to bring over. /I again to import the migrate user.xml file. So in other words, the user settings such as my user profile. /encrypt, which is going to encrypt the data so that it's more secure, and someone else that happens upon that share where I'm going to store this stuff will not be able to open it up and potentially derive sensitive data out of it. /key, which is just a password, which is going to be USMT secret in this case. All right, so then I'll just press enter here, and we'll see that it starts the migration process. This may again take a few minutes, but once it's done, you'll see that the data is stored over on the server. All right, then once it's complete, you'll see here that it just kind of keeps track of what it's doing, and that it gives me no error code, so it looks like everything must have been okay. Here I'm just gone over to the network drive, the network share, where this was actually located, and you can see here that I've got the USMT file that was created for me. Also, by the way, this is also compatible with the Windows Easy Transfer, so I can export with the User State Migration tool, and then by double-clicking on this, I can import with Windows Easy Transfer, and then pull the data into a Windows 7 installation, for example, and you can see the rest right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that for the time being, though. The other thing I could do then is now I could go over to my new Windows 7 machine, because right now we're still putting our eyes on a Windows Vista computer, but I could go to my new Windows 7 machine and import the data that was just exported, again using the User State Migration tool. And then here I've gone to my new Windows 7 computer, where instead of running scan state, now I'm running load state, because I want to import those settings from the same directory path you see there. I'm using the application and user settings, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to decrypt this time using, again, the same secret. And then that's pretty much it. You can see it's kind of doing its job. And when it's done, I should be able to log on as the trainer account and be able to see all of my profile settings. Then you can see here, after I've migrated all the settings using the User State Migration tool to this Windows 7 computer, again, we'll have all of my documents. There's my tribute to William Shatner. Oh, I would need to re-encrypt this if that was important, and I wanted to make sure that it was encrypted, by the way. So I'd re-encrypt this. Also, note that as I complete this, that it's going to be using the same certificate. Okay, so if I right-click on this and choose Properties again and go back to Advanced and Details, we can see that there's the certificate thumbprint, which appears in the details for this, which ends in, let's say, E331B7. Okay, now I'm going to switch back over to my previous computer, which is my Windows Vista client computer, where I've already opened up that same certificate, and you can see that it ends in the same. That's pretty much the same, or exactly the same certificate. So you see that that came over. You already saw that the wallpaper was all there. So everything looks pretty good there. And once again, we've had a successful migration, this time using USMT. In this nugget, we took a look at installation. This was part 2, where we talked about upgrades and migration. Remember, you can really only upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 7, as in like a Windows Home Edition to Windows Ultimate, for example. Or you could upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7, but you cannot upgrade from Windows XP. For that, you have to migrate. In order to perform a migration, you need to use the Windows Easy Transfer Wizard, or you could also use the User State Migration tool. Okay, either one of these tools will do it for you. Although Windows Easy Transfer is for smaller environments or for one-off migrations, and the User State Migration tool is better for a more corporate-wide solution, because you can do things such as script it and use it on a larger scale. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.